What is up, Steelers Nation? Thank you so much for jumping on to Steelers Talk. I'm Noah Streckbine, joined always by my main man, Jacob Punturi. Find us on youtube.com/All Steelers Talkers. Subscribe anywhere you get your podcast. I am here live once again from UPMC Rooney Sports Complex as day 2 of Pittsburgh Steelers minicamp is come and gone, and there is plenty to talk about, including the connection between Aaron Rodgers and DK Metcalf, how Calvin Austin may be securing his place as wide receiver 2 very early in this one, and how some sleepers, 2 tight ends, and maybe a fullback are names to watch heading into the final day of minicamp and the early parts of the summer. Jake, it's a sunny one here in the city of Pittsburgh, over in East right now. How's life? How you feeling? I hope you're in some AC as I'm cracking up and hopefully coming back to earth here in a second.
Buddy, I was going to say, I think I'm having a literal cooler just existence right now than you. I don't envy you being out in that summer heat in the parking lot right now. But I mean,
Yes.
just let's just give them credit for a minute, folks. But yeah, I'm great, man. And I'm pumped because as minicamp's getting underway, the focus is on how this team is looking and how this team is developing, and not all of the outside drama going on. So I'm pumped hearing about stuff going on from day 2, and I'm pumped to hear about how it was for you being there in person.
It was a good day, I think, overall. I mean, the Pittsburgh Steelers are here day 2, still not a whole ton of Aaron Rodgers in team stuff, but I think that'll come once we get to training camp. Right now, it's a kind of see what Mason has, kind of see what you're getting out of Will Howard, that kind of stuff. But what I am seeing is a little bit of Aaron Rodgers, DK Metcalf connection going on. It feels as if whenever those two are in line, they make sure that they have a moment to play with each other and receive, I guess, the same lineup as we move forward. And I think that's significant. I'm not saying that, helmets and shorts is going to dictate anything. And you could kind of tell, to be really honest with you, like Aaron Rodgers is a little bit juiced up, and you could get the vibe. And I'll say this, he looked way more mobile today than he did 24 hours ago. I don't know if that's just shaking the rust off or what, but definitely looked like a little bit of a more nimble quarterback out there working with Mason Rudolph, Will Howard, and Skylar Thompson. But him and DK seem to be getting some connection down. DK just looks so smooth and big and natural out here that none of it comes as a worry. But it's nice to see Aaron. It's nice to see DK working together. I'll tell you this, Calvin Austin, my friend, looks better by the day. That guy continues to be uber impressive and grow. And while I don't think it rules out a wide receiver 2 at some point during this offseason, I will say that Calvin Austin is putting up one hell of a fight to make sure that he is the guy. And I think it's the most noticeable thing you could see. Calvin is so smooth and fast on his releases, and he's open quite a bit. And I don't know if I'm saying a winner at day 2, I think it's Calvin Austin, to be really honest with you. I have another name. I definitely have another name, but we'll get there in a little bit. But for right now, I would say Calvin Austin, but getting that connection, DK and Aaron, I think is big. Aaron's zip is certainly there, my friend.
Okay.
Like, certainly 100% there. And again, to get a little bit more nimble, a little bit more agile, add a little speed after day 1, I think was impressive as well.
Incredible. Do you, let me ask you, let me throw a question out for you, and then I'll let you take us in whatever direction you were planning to. But as you're talking about Calvin Austin being the winner of day 2 here of minicamp, it brings up this question. Do you think there was any sort of conversation? I know we heard some very encouraging comments from the coaches today about where Calvin Austin is and the opportunity in front of him. So we know it's kind of there, but do you think that he had any conversations with them about how long of a leash he potentially has to maybe earn wide receiver 2? Or do you think that this is all just smokescreen, mini camp, fun stuff to talk about? Not to be a Debbie Downer, but I'm curious to see, does it seem like this is a fair, we talked about quarterback competition before. Is this a wide receiver competition truly, or is this a quote unquote wide receiver competition for number 2 until the next player comes in who will ultimately take that role?
So before I reply to that, I want to play Zach Azzani's clip because that's
Perfect.
a really good transition here. This is what Zach Azzani said on the matter earlier today about Calvin Austin.
Committee, which I'm okay with because there's a lot of really cool little pieces there that are sneaky. So everyone's downplaying, underplaying our group right now. I love it that way. I don't really want anyone looking at us anyway. It'll be good. So I think that 2 spot is all Calvin's right now. And really, him and DK are such different players that there's going to be plays where he is the one guy because that's his route, and vice versa because they're so different, in stature. So it's a good question.
You look at Zach Azzani, he's pretty straightforward there, and I appreciate him being pretty straightforward. I don't think he makes that final call, but I'll say this: the Steelers love Calvin, man. Like, there's no part of the Pittsburgh Steelers that look at Calvin Austin as a guy who should be on the bench more often than he's not. I don't think that it's going to hold them back from a wide receiver too, but I don't think Calvin's going to be the reason that they go out and get one necessarily. I don't think they're going to look at Calvin Austin and say, oh, okay, well, he's just not good enough and we have to go get somebody. They'll look at it and say, Calvin's good enough, maybe the rest of the group isn't, and we need to go get somebody else. Or, okay, we're gearing up for one last run, we just got to go get somebody else. But I don't think it takes away from Calvin. Like, if Chris Olave ended up here, if Gabe Davis ended up here, if Romeo Doubs ended up here, I don't think Calvin Austin comes off the field any less or any more than he was going to. He's still going to be a guy who's on the field all the time in Pittsburgh. So I don't necessarily think it's a wide receiver 2 competition, but I do think that it's I just think Calvin Austin's the 2B no matter what. That's just the role he's going to play. So no matter who they bring in here, which I anticipate them bringing somebody in, like, there's no part of me that thinks they won't. I don't think it's going to happen today, but I think it's going to happen eventually. But I don't think it hurts Calvin Austin. I don't think it impacts him at all because he's a slot guy. They're going to use him in the slot. They're going to use him as a seam threat. And that's the role he's going to play. And they're not going to bring in anybody to replace that role. They're going to bring in an outside body and say, okay, this guy's another, I want to say George Pickens, but obviously not George Pickens, while Calvin Austin is kind of doing his thing.
Okay. That is the most encouraging answer I could have heard, honestly, from that question. I think what I want to see is just, I wrote about previously before, I think he's the biggest winner. Calvin Austin is the biggest winner of the Rodgers signing and bringing him in for the offense. So I would love to see him get a fair shake, as it were, to actually fill that opportunity and step up when given that opportunity. So it's incredibly encouraging from an outside perspective to hear that, Azzani was so emphatic about Austin being the number 2 and being the guy who is, has a very specific set of skills like Liam Neeson that can help this offense. But it's, we're all hoping to see it translate. I think we're all huge fans of him as a person and sort of how much he's battled back ever since he's come into the league. Missing your rookie year could be devastating for any sort of player in the NFL. So it's an encouraging answer. So I'm happy to hear that. I know, not putting the cart before the horse here, but it's good to hear so far. The comments seem encouraging.
I agree. And look I think just like you said, like, you just watch what Aaron can do and you watch how much Calvin has grown seemingly in the last year. And you just think that that's a match made in heaven. Like, there's so many times last year where you could go on and watch the tape and Calvin's wide open, but he's open before Russ could get to him, or he's open before Justin could get to him. And I mean, he just doesn't get an opportunity. You look at Pat Fryermuth's the other guy that we talked about, and you go back and there's so many times where he's standing there and there's nobody within 15 yards of the guy, 15 yards. And he's just standing there like, yeah, there's no chance somebody's going to throw me the football here. There's no chance. I think with Aaron, a guy who sees the field as well as he does, processes it as fast as he does, that, like, those are going to be the 2 guys that in my eyes benefit the most out of the Aaron Rodgers thing. Is by far, without question, actually, it'll be Calvin Austin and Pat Fryermuth. And then I think it just depends on if Roman Wilson could develop into a quality route runner. If he could become a good route runner, you don't need to go out and get somebody else, but right now that's where Roman struggles. Roman's a super physical guy who's great at run blocking, has crazy speed, really, really good hands. not the best route runner. And you could tell he's working on that stuff. You could see it in his game right now, but he needs to develop there to be able to kind of shut down the noise and claim that spot in that lineup. But I'm excited for what Calvin does, because I don't think there's any part of me that thinks Calvin isn't going to succeed in this offense. I do have two very fun names for you that stood out today. And I'm pretty excited to share them with you. The first one's DJ Thomas Jones. That dude looked like a stud. He had a great day. Great day. He was catching passes. I'm getting eaten alive over here by these lantern flies. The little baby guys, dude, they're all over the place here in Southside. But DJ Thomas Jones caught one pass over his head that you don't see a fullback / tight end make. That's how good it was. And then he had a couple more of them, some catches in traffic. He stood out to me a ton today, a ton. DJ Thomas Jones was the guy that I think sleeper wise had a day. And then the other one, Darnell Washington, looked like a stud out there. Looked like a stud, my friend. Darnell probably had the best practice of anybody today. Caught a touchdown at the end of the 2-minute drill from Will Howard. That was a great reception. I don't know. There was not a moment where Darnell wasn't open. He was catching contested balls. He was making people miss. He was going up tall or up high. Darnell was the guy, man. And I'll ask you, the excitement level from the outside to have a guy like Darnell involved, and like that's a name we've been waiting on for years. And now if he's here, if he could have I'll say this, Darnell has not had a receiving day practice as good as he's had today in 3 seasons or 2 seasons and OTAs. To have that guy there, what's the excitement level from the other side, I guess?
The excitement is sky high. I mean, I think it kickstarted yesterday with Rodgers being very explicit in seeing, a young Mercedes Lewis. I know he wasn't saying, Darnell Washington is the next incarnation of Mercedes Lewis, but he certainly, I take what he says there with a lot of meaning, and I put a lot of investment into it, because Rodgers certainly knows a thing or two about good tight end plays and how to extend tight ends from within their skill set to maximize it in an offense. So to hear that Rodgers is already keying in on Darnell Washington in a different way than the Steelers offense has been able to in his first 2 years in the league, incredibly exciting. And I think the potential there has always been sky high, and the excitement and the likelihood of him reaching it has wavered at times and, ebbed and flowed. But, right now, with a true passing quarterback who knows how to elevate a tight end play, it's exciting. And I think, I don't want to say anything more than it'll be an improvement for Darnell Washington in year 3, but I think we're all expecting an improvement, and that is in terms of offensive production and just usage and utilization within the Steelers offense. So yeah, excitement's high.
Yeah, I agree. And that to me is like, the Jonnu Smith thing, we could go through all of them, but the Jonnu Smith thing, the Kyle Pitts thing, like, I don't know, it's a good name, but I think that's all it is just an addition, to the offense. I don't think at any point do either of them make sense as like the guy that the Steelers must go get. And I think part of that's just because Pat's so good, but the other part of that is because Darnell Washington could be your number 2 tight end, because all your number 2 tight end needs to do is catch a couple of passes here and there and be a really sound run blocker. And that's what Darnell can be. You don't need 2 Pat Freiermuths. Nobody has 2 Pat Freiermuths. And the Steelers, while they could use another receiving option, I don't think need to add to their tight end room right now, because the way I look at it is Darnell has an opportunity to kind of burst out and be that guy. And I think today was a good addition to kind of see that, to kind of see what came of the Pittsburgh Steelers tight end, as he, for one, said that conditioning's way better than it's been in years past. 2, said he slimmed down, but 3, just becomes more comfortable in an offense and has a quarterback who knows how to use tight ends, which is absolutely huge. And then for Will Howard to throw that pass, I mean, that was cool too. To see Will kind of get juiced up for a moment, you're just like, that's It's the spark that you needed, because Will is at this point, like, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but like Will is at this point for sure quarterback 4 on this depth chart right now. And, I would like to see him climb up to quarterback 3. He's not going to get any higher than that, but I would like to see him climb to quarterback 3 and get more reps. And I'm excited for it. I'm excited for it. All right. I got 2 other pieces of news for you today that I want to toss your way, both of them outside the Pittsburgh Steelers organization. One of them comes from a dog. One of them comes from an old TikTok. We'll start with the old TikTok because it stays on the realm, the page that we're on currently. Keenan Allen has apparently made it known that while Aaron Rodgers is awesome, he doesn't want to come to the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's not a team that he's currently looking at. Me and you have discussed Keenan Allen, to me at least, is good name, cool. Wasn't really the possibility, that the name that I thought the Steelers would go after. To shut that down, to say, okay, I'm good on Pittsburgh. I don't really feel that's the place for me. Bother you at all? You care at all? Is it a loss to the Steelers? We get a lot of people constantly who ask about Keenan Allen. Is it a bummer now that he's not here? Do you just not care?
I gotta be honest, man. I've never seen him as a fit that would be anything other than just adding a body to camp. So I don't mind at all. I don't know what the context of where that quote came out of or what he was asked prior to, but like, my first initial thought was that's kind of like, I didn't get invited to the prom anyways, but I didn't want to go. It's not like I was planning on going anyways. It wasn't a fit for me. I wasn't going to have fun. It wasn't, I don't like anybody there. So it's like, all right, no, I'm like, it's great that it wasn't a fit for you. It wasn't, I don't think the Steelers thought it was much of a fit either. So it's kind of like, I don't care at all. I don't think he would have been an impactful addition to the Steelers in 2025. 3 years ago, yep, would have been excellent.
3 years ago would have been great. You would have been 2 knee injuries prior to that. But I agree with you. I think he went to Chicago, said, wow, dude, it's freaking cold up here, bro. This place sucks. And then he's a free agent going, there are a lot of teams where it does not snow for 6 months out of the year. Pittsburgh, unfortunately, is not one of them. But I agree with you. I never once looked at Keenan Allen would have been nice, would have been a cool name. I think Gabe Davis is more realistic. I think Chris Olave is more realistic. I think they're going to be names like anybody out of Houston who has a loaded room right now who could end up in Pittsburgh or on the trade block for the Steelers to go after. But there are just too many names to say Keenan Allen was a realistic option for the Pittsburgh Steelers where we stand today. I didn't see it. Doesn't bother me at all. A lot of people ask Amari Cooper next, though. Is that the guy that you're looking to next of the veterans that are out there, or you feel the same way about him?
I tell you what, and there is not a free agent available right now. And of course, this can change on a daily basis, and in the coming weeks will certainly shift but there is not a free agent available that I find more enticing than just rolling with what they have right now. I think you either have to go forward with the trade option and get someone, and I'm not saying Chris Olave specifically, but like you have to go get someone who is really worth the assets you're going to give up in the organization's mind, or you have to just stand pat. You have a wide receivers coach who's emphatically in love with wide receiver 2, Calvin Austin. And maybe that's just the best way forward for the Steelers offense. And maybe that's what Tomlin wants. Maybe that's what Arthur Smith wants. Maybe that's what Aaron Rodgers wants. So Amari Cooper, again, great veteran. I don't want to come off disrespectful to what he's done in the NFL. He and Keenan Allen have been very productive at times, but I don't see the point, and I don't see the reason in expending the sort of money it would take to bring either in just for a year for 600 yards at most.
I agree. I also think Amari Cooper brings some question marks to his attitude in the locker room. It just, to me, like, there's been issues, and I don't know, man. The Steelers are kind of over that at this point. Like, we're going to talk about another guy next year, but I just don't think Pittsburgh's looking for those troubles or looking for that concern when it comes to anybody, especially the wide receiver. After getting rid of George Pickens, getting rid of Deontay Johnson, moving on from all these guys, I don't know. The way I look at it right now is if you're going to go get an old dude, go trade for an old dude. Go find a guy somewhere else. Don't go get Amari Cooper. Don't go. And to be honest with you, like, you have your old dude. And I hate to say it about him, but you have your old dude. Your old dude's Robert Woods. That's your old dude. If he makes the team, awesome. And that's your old guy. But you don't need to go anywhere else and go sign somebody over the age of 32 years old and try to plug him in as a starter. That's just, in my eyes, it's not a way to go for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now I'll ask you. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just truly don't think, if I can put my Steelers cap on, just like put myself in the room with the Steelers coaches, there is no way that I buy that Tomlin or even Omar Khan would be of a stronger belief in someone like an Amari Cooper or a Keenan Allen or a Gabe Davis than Calvin Austin and Roman Wilson, because they invested time and effort and draft picks, high draft picks, on these players. And I think there is a stubbornness within any NFL management scheme and structure that is like, these are our guys. We drafted them. We had X grade on them. We think they can help us win a Super Bowl. So to go and be like, well, they're good, they're talented, but we're actually going to give them less opportunity and reps now that 30 whatever year old Amari Cooper is now available, totally defeats the evaluation skills and trust that this management claims to have. And I'm not calling that into question. It's just, I think that the move to go get another wide receiver would just like totally counteract and run counter to that mindset and approach. I don't know if you feel differently or if I'm kind of way off base there, but it doesn't add up to me from the Steelers management perspective and the Steelers staff perspective.
I'll call out management and say they are blatantly lying to us. They are, as they do all the time. They
of course.
Blatantly lying to us. But I don't think it has to do with necessarily Calvin as much as Roman. Like, I think they like Roman, but I think they want to see Roman succeed, but they also understand that Roman's got a lot of work in front of him. And he's got to take those steps. Whereas I think when you're looking at Calvin Austin, they are comfortable with that. They just know that they need a third, and they got to go find a third. And just like you said, like, you're not going to take reps away from these guys for Amari Cooper. You have your Amari. It's Robert Woods. You went out and got him already. He's there. You're not going to go do it again. And that's the difference. Is like, I get it that maybe Amari, maybe Keenan Allen are better than Robert Woods, but the Steelers already have that guy. They don't need another one. They need somebody younger, and that's the direction they're going to go in. I'll ask you about two guys that are somewhat younger. I don't know if you follow Ricky the dog on Twitter. Okay. If you don't, you should, because the guy is spot on pretty much all the time. It's just a dog meme account who knows way too much in the NFL. And we've gone off of him before, and he's been right more than
barking?
once. Yeah, he's barking, my friend. I got this text today. I don't follow him on Twitter. I don't do any of that. But I got this text from a buddy today that said, another reporter in the NFL. You heard anything about this? FYI, this guy usually gets it right. And I said, oh, what is this? And then I realized it's Slick Rick Scoops. That's the guy. The Steelers have inquired about both Jair Alexander and Jalen Ramsey. I'm expecting the Steelers to acquire one of them. Omar is cooking. Do you believe a dog? And I know you don't know much about him, but I'm going to tell you, his track record is impressive. He did say Brandon Ayuk was coming to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Yikes on that one. But most of the time, he's pretty all right. All right. I'll ask you a more important question on this one. If you had to choose between the two with the same circumstances that they're in, what direction would you go if you were the Pittsburgh Steelers?
Jair Alexander, no question. Doesn't take me much time to decide that either. I think Jalen Ramsey is, incredible. There's no doubting that he is a talent that is unmatched, and at his prime, at his peak, was, you could go up with a ton of the cornerbacks of this era. Jair Alexander is the right choice for the Steelers right now. He gives them exactly what they need. We talk about, on the other side of the ball, the number 2-3 position at wide receiver, the secondary, the cornerback position is going through the exact same thing. They need someone who can either probably be the number 3, but if things shift, if things change, they need someone who could comfortably be a number 2 and give you reliable production. Jair Alexander can come in and be a number 3, and I don't think anyone would be worried about him in that role. And if if Slay gets injured, doesn't work out, whatever else happens that we don't anticipate happening and don't want to happen, then Jair Alexander moves on up, and you feel pretty confident about having JPJ and Alexander on the outside. So I think it's a no-brainer. I think it's Jair Alexander. Do you feel any differently?
I would if it was the same compensation. Like if it was Jair Alexander for $3 million and Jalen Ramsey for $3 million, I'd say Jalen Ramsey all day because he plays the slot. That's the biggest position of need that the Pittsburgh Steelers have. He could play outside, obviously. And right now he'd come in here, replace Beanie Bishop, and be able to provide depth. And that's exactly what the Steelers are looking for. But that's not the case. You're going to trade a 3rd-round pick for Jalen Ramsey, and you're going to have to pay a contract for him. Not what the Steelers are looking to do, nor should they or could they afford to do it. Jair Alexander, on the other hand, cheap, going to come for nothing. The problem is there are going to be teams who call him, and this is what happens to the Steelers. This is where the Steelers find themselves. If Jair Alexander did not have a market and was just coming in here to be a team's backup and be cheap and try to work his way into a starting job like Trey White did last year, makes so much sense for Pittsburgh. Go out and get him. You know what I mean? Because at this point, you can't rely on him to start 17 games. He's played 7 the last 2 seasons. Not a guy that you could look at like that. But what you could do is look at Jair Alexander as a quality backup that you hope is a rotational piece that's pretty much a starter. And that's what you're looking for. But he's not going to be that guy. Some teams going to pay way too much money for Jair Alexander and bring him in to do way too much. And then we're going to see what happens. If it works out, awesome. If it doesn't, kind of told you so. But I don't think that Jair Alexander, where we sit here today, is an option for Pittsburgh. Like I'm not calling out the dog Rick here, but I don't feel as if it makes much sense. And while maybe they called, I don't think that necessarily the conversations went anywhere because they understand. They probably called and said, hey, what's the market right now? We'd love to make an offer. Train's coming by. Just wait, guys. And Jair probably said, or his agent probably said, there's about 4 or 5 other teams that have called. Okay, sounds good. This is fun. Let's move in a different direction. But that's how I view it. I just don't think that realistically he's going to have the market the Steelers need to go out and kind of get him.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there. I don't think either Alexander or Ramsey are the most realistic options. I don't think I would not bet on either actually landing in Pittsburgh. That's for sure. But yeah, just in terms of like what would fit best and what would be the best situation for now, I stand by Alexander for sure. But yeah, I mean, I guess I also wouldn't be surprised at all whenever I hear stuff, from the dog or whoever that the Steelers are inquiring, because I think we get piece of evidence after piece of evidence after piece of proof that Omar Khan is one of the busiest general managers in the NFL. He inquires and does his due diligence on everybody. So yeah, if someone says he called about a punter, I wouldn't be surprised. The man is active. He keeps tabs on the entire league. That doesn't sound out, that sounds like a bark I could hear,
The bark I could hear. I want you to go check out Ricky's. I'm going to send it to you now. His Twitter account, because he is, dude. He gets some good ones. He was obviously wrong about the Steelers last year, but he does, man. He gets some good. I feel you. I agree with you. All right. With that, that's everything on our agenda. We're going to start diving in to all your questions. Day 2 from mandatory minicamp here at UPMC Rooney Sports Complex. With that said, we will be right back.
Pittsburgh, this one's for you. From the voices behind all Steelers talk comes black and gold apparel, your go-to for bold, fan-driven merch that reps the city, the Steelers, and everything in between. Whether you bleed black and gold or just love that Pittsburgh grit, we've got something for you. It's more than a podcast. It's a community. And thanks to your support, we're proud to bring the passion from our mics to your closets. Gear up, stand out, and show the world what real fans look like. Shop now at blackandgoldapparel.myshopify.com.
All righty. Shout out to our members. Shout out to our super chatters. Shout out to everybody who called in to the call-in show today. Make sure you're doing that next week as well, keeping them going throughout the summer. I know will die down, but there'll be questions, and make sure you're calling in and give me your hot takes. Give me your questions, the whole nine. We're going to start with Chris. Noah, please tell me that Pat Meyer has finally fixed the offensive line. Please tell me that Broderick Jones looks good and isn't a bust. I think it's a little too early to focus on the offensive line. I honestly think it's way too early to focus on the offensive line. It's impossible to know if guys who are supposed to be physical are good without any physicality. You know, like you're blocking somebody in shorts and t-shirts, and like you just can't get a vibe. I will say this, I have high hopes for Broderick. He looks slim, man. He looks really slim. I don't know if that concerns you, but he does look slim. I think that's going to work in the athletic side of things.
Mm-hmm.
I think the difference right now is that this is the first year in a while where the Steelers' offensive line doesn't feel like it's falling into place. It feels like it's in place. You know, it's not like it's like the quarterback situation where it's the last 2 weeks. You're like, okay, like, yeah, maybe Mason's good, but like we know what's coming. You know, the last couple of years, it's like, all right, Dan might be good, but we know what's coming. You know, James Daniels might be good, but we know what's coming. Now it's the pieces are here, and I honestly, I don't know if they're going to be good. It's too early to tell. But Broderick does look slim. He definitely looks slim. Does that concern you?
Well, I was gonna say I just have a clarifying question, I guess, regarding Slim. Does he look like he's maybe trimmed down a little bit and got to maybe a more, I don't know, leaner weight that you would describe a tackle, or did he look slim as if like he was? How noticeable were you with the thought of, oh, he looks slim, I guess is my clarifying question. Because if you look too, I like the athletic build, like let's get leaner and faster and quicker, quote unquote,
Yeah.
but there's certainly a limit.
I don't think that, to me, Broderick looks like concerningly small. You know, I've seen guys who are concerningly small. It's just slimmer, and I think it's going to work in his favor. I do. You know, I think that he's going to be able to move. I think he's going to be more athletic. I hope all that helps. But again, like, I don't think it has anything to do with his ability to move. I don't think Broderick's struggles have ever come from his lack of athleticism or his footwork. I think it's all hand placement and his ability to finish. And he's just never been able to do that in the NFL right now. I hope that changes. I truly, truly do. But I don't know. I don't think that. I don't think I'm concerned about slim Broderick. I honestly think I'm like, maybe this is a good thing. Like you said, maybe it's the right kind of slim,
Yeah. I mean, it's all hands, like you said. Like that's my biggest worry with him is are the hands going to be quick enough? So that's why I ask, like, let's gauge if he's just looking fit and ready for the season, then let's go. Those quick hands might be like, all over the place. But
I agree. And we'll see.
All right.
We'll see. Miguel, A-Rod is 5-29 over his last 34 games. Expectations should be low. Hopefully the kids get some games. The future is more important than one single season. I disagree with that last sentiment. I think most people in the league would. While I think the future is good, any team, especially the Pittsburgh Steelers, that you would walk into and say, hey, man, you got to make sure that next year is more important than this year, they'd tell you to leave. Instantly tell you to leave. He is, I guess. No, he's not 5-29 over his last 34 games. He went 5-12 last year, 1-0 the year before, 8-9 years prior. So I guess maybe. I don't know. He's probably close. He's probably very close.
500, somewhere like that. But either way, like that, his record over the last 34 starts does nothing to sway my opinion as unimpressive as it is. We all know the team he was on the last 2 years, and even though he missed 23, like there was no chance he was going to be good there. That aside, there is no chance, even if it was the 100% right idea for the Steelers to be doing, blow it all up, we're done, move it on for next year. Even if that was 100% indisputably correct, there is, like, the Titanic and the captain going down with it. The Steelers would absolutely still be trying to win a Super Bowl this year. It's just, whether you agree with it or not, I think that is just what the Steelers mantra remains every single year. And whether the pieces they bring in and the moves they make correspondingly, pay off or not is kind of irrelevant. It's the goal remains unchanging year to year, and I have not really seen otherwise, at least in my lifetime of watching the Steelers.
I agree. I agree. I just what he will be in Pittsburgh is different than what I think he'll be anywhere else, and we'll see what happens. Chuck, has a question here. Not sure if 2-29, but when was the last good season he had, and how old was he? I mean, they went 8-9 beforehand. My phone is a billion degrees, so it's freaking out right now. But the year before that, in 2021, like he's a Pro Bowler, and they go 13-3. They go 13-3 the year before that. They go 13-3 the year before that. Like he's a Pro Bowler 4 years before that. I don't know. Like I just don't fall for the like I get it. Maybe he fell off a horse, but I'm not willing to sit here and say that it's over. You know, I'm just not at all willing to sit here and say that it's done. Heath, hey guys, I have written a few times about Mason being the future. You politely told me I was out of my mind. I am quickly changing my mind now. Aaron Rodgers' attitude is not what I expected. Yeah, I agree. I think Aaron Rodgers came in here and had the right mindset and quickly reminded everybody that he is a team guy. Maybe he adds some distractions. Maybe he doesn't have the best reputation off the field, but I don't think that when it comes to him being a teammate or a team player, he's ever had any questions there, and outside of, not showing up. But I don't think, again, like you even look at the Jets the first year that all happened. It wasn't like the Egypt trip was planned. They knew about it. They decided that they were going to keep it the way that it was because if they changed it, they felt other guys wouldn't show up instead of just one. And that's why they didn't do it. Obviously it looked worse than it was, but I just don't think, in my opinion, Aaron's ever been a bad teammate, and everything I've heard are great things. I do think his attitude yesterday, it brought some excitement. Am I wrong? It just brought some excitement to Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I mean, I think he presented himself exactly how everyone hoped he would. As just the new quarterback of the Steelers, I have truly nothing to criticize about the way he's handled the first week or so of his tenure here. I think he's a strange oddball of a human from everything I've seen and gathered of, him, the 20% I've gotten the chance to see of him, throughout his NFL career. Yeah, he seems like a strange guy, but it seems like within the locker room, anywhere he's gone, the players around him are excited for him to be there and have mostly good and positive experiences. So Heath, you're not out of your mind. You have your own views. The belief in Mason is noble. But yeah, it's I think Aaron Rodgers is quickly turning heads, and it also doesn't surprise me that Steelers Nation is eager to embrace him. I think we both kind of were on that same path of saying something along those lines, and that, once he's actually here and practice gets started, training camp gets started, regular season gets rolling, people just want to see the Steelers win and go after that Super Bowl. So the perspectives and the eagerness to embrace kind of shifts a little bit now that he's here and saying the right things. So yeah, that's tough. But Heath, you're not out of your mind, buddy.
No, definitely not. Chris, once again here, guys, just to clarify, I think the offensive line is the key to the season. Rodgers in the run game could be scary good if the line gets, and I am hopeful. I agree. I definitely agree. I think the offensive line is going to dictate how good the Pittsburgh Steelers are in 2025. Like, hands down, if it's bad, they're really bad. If it's good, I think they have potential to be like really, really good.
Yeah. I think, it is boom or bust truly with the offensive line, because if they are bad, all of the fears and all of the criticisms and all of the concerns and weaknesses of Aaron Rodgers' game will not only be exploited, but exacerbated on a weekly basis if he's healthy. So it's not only is the offensive line going to be good or bad, they will dictate everything. But if they're bad, no one will look good, period. There's just no way to salvage the offense if the offensive line struggles. And so, yeah, Chris, great point there.
I agree. Alexander here. Mark Caboli looked happy yesterday at Aaron's press conference. I was in the locker room today. I went up to him. I was making fun of him because Aaron walks by Kaboom, who's talking to somebody, slaps him on the shoulder, says, "Mark, good to see you." I went up. I said, "Oh, is that the McAfee Brotherhood there? Is that what that is? Is that how you got that?" Yeah, you know that he's happy. You know that good old Mark Caboli is happy. I want to address Joe here. U.S. Open will be there Friday through Sunday, flying in from Phoenix. You also, Joe, invited me or us maybe to come join him in. Well, I got to pull this up because it is crazy what you're rocking with here, brother. The Trophy Club access. I appreciate the invite. I 100% appreciate the invite. I'm going to, and I would love to, you know what I mean? I would love to. I'm going to New York this weekend for my anniversary. So if it wasn't the anniversary, I would be there. You're not the first person to say you should go. I would easily. The other one was either I've been asked to go there to be like a guest at some whiskey bar, which would be cool. And explore some tent experience thing, which would be cool. Joe in the Trophy Club access, you would have been my pick, my friend, and it would have been a great time. I appreciate you. I am bummed that I am not going. I will say that I am definitely bummed that I will not be at the U.S. Open.
Enjoy it, Joe. Enjoy it, dude.
Shout out. All right, keeping it trucking here. Jared Brooks, a member for 3 months. Shout out, my friend. Is it bad to pound the table for Amari Cooper? He may be older, but he's a reliable route runner, and I love the show. Keep up the work. Appreciate you, Jared. Make sure you're calling into the Wednesday call-in show. Amari Cooper. What would it take for you to go after Amari Cooper? What would have to happen this summer? Here comes the train. You guys hear it?
No, dude, because I'm telling you, you got to like send a clip into whoever made the microphone, or maybe we have to be purposefully cagey. I'm not sure how that works, but you know, you cannot hear a darn thing. Didn't hear a thing yesterday either.
It's coming by. But all right, what would it take for Amari?
I'm going to stay confident here. What would it take for Amari Cooper? So much. I think I'm coming off as so pessimistic here, but like
a little bit, but it's okay.
There's just nothing that he brings. Like if he wants to come play for $1 million, sure. There's no other options in a month. Yeah, of course, bring him in. Why not? You know, the competition is excellent. I think it will only help the team. But right now, being like you're the guy who's going to make the difference, I have a really hard time buying into that, and I think it would be an underwhelming choice for what I think this team is trying to do at this point.
Okay, so that's a good one to go after this one here. Corey here says that the longer that the Steelers wait to sign a wide receiver too, the quality of the player is going to go down. If they sign a guy like Alan Lazard, who's not available, he'd have to be a trade guy. They need to do it now. At what point does that shift come to you? At what point do you start looking at this and going, okay, yeah, Amari Cooper sounds great right now. That sounds way better than Roman Wilson, Calvin Austin, and Ben Skoranek running out to the field on Sunday?
Ooh, I truly, for me, I think my line is probably way further away than everyone else's right now. But I mean, I go into the preseason still with the same group, even like, especially if Amari Cooper remains the top option available. It would take some pretty miserable performances for me to fully give up on the group going in now, and to think that again, Amari Cooper can be the difference maker there. It would take a lot. I don't think he's a bad receiver at all. I think he brings a ton. I don't see him being a difference maker at all. Shout out to Amari Cooper. I'm sorry, buddy, if you happen to hear any of this. It's not about you,
fan of the show, dude. Fan of the show.
My best buddy Amari.
Not a fan of Jacob, though. Not a fan of Jacob. Cody Silva, Mike Tomlin, most attraction. Rodgers won me over. We're getting a lot of this. And I think it's warranted. You know, like Aaron just looks like, again, like all he needed to do was show. And I tried to say that so many times. Like, if Aaron shows up before minicamp and is here for minicamp, we have 6 weeks before anybody's back on the field in Pittsburgh, which means that's 6 weeks for it to just die down, become real quiet. Everybody to just remember Aaron Rodgers is the quarterback of the freaking Pittsburgh Steelers, and that's exciting. So I think it worked out perfectly. Just like he said, I had no regrets skipping OTAs. Good. Yeah. Who cares? DK Metcalf skipped them too. Nobody cared at all. TJ Watt's still not here, and people aren't freaking out. There's no part of me. I think Aaron should have. I think anybody who's sitting around holding a grudge about the Aaron Rodgers thing, maybe just ease up on the brake a little bit, or on the gas a little bit, and just kind of open your mind up to to what could come and who he is. And I swear, if I get another one of these freaking bugs crawling on my legs, look at him. Look at him.
Get him.
Oh,
Special
I got
guest.
him. Unbelievable they are. They're worse when they're little, dude. At least when they're big, they just hit you and fall down. Unreal. Unreal. Keeping it trucking here. Cody Silva. 4 months already. Shout out, my friend. Appreciate y'all. Should I repurpose my Kenny Pickett jersey or buy a real Rodgers one? Definitely repurpose. It is a repurpose season, no doubt about it. Unless you're a guy that like wants the jersey so that you could be like, yeah, man, remember the year Aaron Rodgers was the Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback? But if that's not the case, I would say repurpose, slap it over Rodgers with the tape. I think you could possibly like peel them off, go take it to a shop and get Rodgers printed on there. But I would I'd be repurposing. First off, nobody wants a Kenny Pickett jersey anymore. Nobody's gonna want a Kenny Pickett jersey ever. So go get make it at Rodgers and have a good time with it.
Here's the deciding question for you, Carl, is if you bought an original Michael Vick Steelers jersey, then you owe it to yourself. You are obligated, I think, legally to buy a unique and individual Aaron Rodgers jersey just for the same purpose of being like, yeah, remember that year we had that random quarterback in Pittsburgh? Yeah.
True.
So yeah, other than that,
go get a Justin Fields and a Russell Wilson one too. Mitch Trubisky. Throw it out there.
Get it.
Go get it.
Get a Mitch Trubisky, put it up next to your frame Tommy Maddox jersey, and let's just have a ball of a game room.
Let's have a great day. Enigma After Dark. AST2, Father Time 0. I think similar to last year, we go start with what we have and maybe compete for the name a wide receiver sweepstakes at the deadline. I do think that's a possibility, but I don't think the Steelers are going to drag it out that far. Like just everything that I've heard, the feel of the Pittsburgh Steelers is that they understand there are going to be wide receiver options. They're very comfortable going to get one of those options. Unless everybody says no to them, which you never know, but unless everybody says no, I think the Steelers are, I think it's, I don't want to say it's a guarantee, but I feel very good and confident that the Steelers are going to add a wide receiver. Do you feel differently? Like, do you feel that there is more of a shot that they start the season with the group they have than with somebody new?
Yeah, I do. I do feel differently. I do think it's more likely that, not more likely. I do think there is a chance that the Steelers start the 2025 regular season with the same exact group that's going to go into training camp. And as it looks right now, not sure where I place my bet right now. Not sure which side of the coin I, feel more in favor of, but I do think the more each day passes and there's not another wide receiver trade happening and there's no further progress on some sort of deal or free agent signing, I will definitely be siding with, this is the roster, this is the depth chart going into the regular season in week 1.
I would like for that to be the case if they feel that their guys are good.
Mm-hmm.
We'll have to see. I'm excited for you to start getting to practice to see what these guys look like, because I think they do look good, but I think 2 sets of eyes always helps for sure. All right, keeping it trucking here. Thomas, Slick Rick has said we could be getting a Jair and Ramsey. Which one would you rather? Also, how does Caleb Johnson look? Caleb Johnson looks like an absolute stud. I talked to him yesterday, and it was hilarious how his mind is always about football, because I went up to him. I just said, hey, what's going on, Caleb? My name's Noah. Great to meet you. I write with on SI, blah, blah, blah. And we start talking, and I was like, yo, is Pittsburgh anything close to Iowa? And he just starts talking about football. And I was like, I meant in the fact of, is Pittsburgh anything like Iowa in terms of the level of corn, not in terms of football. But he looks like a stud. He looks so smooth. I think Jalen looks so good right now and explosive that I'm excited for him, but it's OTA or it's minicamp, so who cares? But I think Caleb looks really fast, elusive, has good hands. To me, he's done everything that I think the Steelers have been asking for him or of him as we move forward. And because Thomas missed it earlier, we'll talk about it again. Jair or Ramsey, who and why, and what would you pay for either one?
Just for you, Thomas. I'm all in on Jair, but only if the price was right for either. I don't think either one is the best fit. I think Jair is slightly more realistic. I would give him a few $1,000,000 and, assurance of some sort of snap percentage, I guess, to bring Jair in. But aside from that, I would be willing to offer very, very little to both players to bring them in.
Okay. I think what would you trade if Ramsey was the only option? What would you give up for him?
A very low draft pick.
Very low draft pick.
I'd do maybe like a fifth. Again, I just don't like it. And it's mostly because the way I value draft picks is less about I like the players this good, they deserve, first round compensation. It's more about how well they would fit within the team acquiring them at the time we're talking about it. And there's just nothing about Jalen Ramsey that I think fits the Steelers' defensive needs enough to warrant such a high return. I think obviously it would take a good return to acquire Jalen Ramsey. And I just think it's not worth the Steelers' time or the assets they currently have to even pursue it more than a thought experiment.
I like it. It's crazy to me that Ramsey's only 30 years old. When I look at him, I think he's been in the league for 40 years. But I agree. All right. Heath here. Weeks ago, you alluded to knowing Aaron Rodgers would sign. Can you elaborate now? I can't tell the full story, unfortunately, not yet. I've been told that I'll be able to, and I promised that to you guys, and I've made it known to sources around me that I've promised that to you guys because they told me to promise it to you. But I cannot reveal that yet. It is not the time. When the time's right, I'll make sure that you guys do know. I will say that a couple of weeks ago, I did know when it was going to come. Didn't know the exact date, but I could probably come. I was probably within. If you told me to guess, I bet you I could get it within 24 hours. I think I would have got close. The whole time, the Steelers and Aaron Rodgers were in communication, and they understood what was on the line. They understood the importance of this week. The Steelers asked Aaron to be here, for minicamp. They said, hey, look at it. If you are going to sign with us, we'd like you to be here. This is an important week for us. And he listened. And I think that that's a good notion for the Steelers and for anybody who's worried about Aaron Rodgers. But it just felt like a couple of weeks ago that the deal was there, like that everything was working out the way Aaron hoped it was working out personally in his personal life. And he was getting ready to be able to return to football. And the Steelers asked for him to be at minicamp. And, when the stars started to align, I kind of started dropping hints. And we were good. I got asked 100 times maybe at my brother's wedding. Because a couple weeks prior, his wife graduated from medical school, and she had a big graduation party. Me and my wife went in for it, and we were there, and everybody's at, when's Rodgers going to sign? And I kept telling everybody, weekend before training or before minicamp, weekend before minicamp. And then I show up, and everybody's like, how'd you know, man? What? And I was like, do you think I just guessed? Like, do you think I was lying to you? But I think I was asked 100 times. But at some point the stars aligned, and, I had a pretty good idea of what was going down there. All right. Maddie here. For some reason, I feel better about Aaron than I did about Russ. Why? Help me figure this out this diabolical situation. I also, and watch where the mic, I'm getting smacked in the ear here a little bit.
Sorry.
Dude, I'm sitting here for like 5 minutes. I'm like, dude, is that the train coming by? I was like,
no,
is the train not here? Jacob's just there, just throwing his mic around a little bit, just having a good time with it.
Sorry.
But I mean, do you feel differently? I feel good. I feel better about Aaron. I mean, Russ to me is a guy who, yeah, cool, Russell Wilson, but like Russell Wilson's been a one-trick pony for 5 years now. Aaron to me, like, is a guy that you go the year before the Achilles, and like he's doing things, and the year before that he's really good, and like I don't know, man. To me Aaron's a better quarterback, just hands down, and has more things that he could bring to the table.
For sure. Yeah. I think Maddie, there's not a puzzle to put together here to crack the code for why you're feeling this way. It's because he's a better quarterback, and he's a quarterback now than Russ is. He was a better quarterback last year than Russ was, and he gives the Steelers a better chance to win. So yeah, I think, I hate to be uncovering this diabolical situation with you, but yeah, you feel this way because I would guess you feel this way because Aaron Rodgers is the best quarterback that's arrived in Pittsburgh since 2021, 22.
Oh, easy. Yeah.
Whatever Ben's last year
I
was
think
is what
Ben
I'm trying to
retired in
recall.
21. Yeah. Easy since Ben. And I think by a mile. And I think that's just it. Is like this is the first time that you're looking at it going, worst case scenario, Aaron Rodgers ain't a bad quarterback. You know what I mean? At no point has he ever been bad. And I'm excited to see what else he can bring. Carl Spackler's got a good one here. Okay, our offensive nickname, the Soul Train, based on Aaron Rodgers' answer yesterday saying that this one was from the soul. I absolutely love it. A couple here. Anything on TJ Watt? Because ESPN, as some people in the comments are saying, has said that the Eagles and the Cowboys are calling the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'll say this. I have not heard that. Maybe they are, and I just haven't heard it yet. I don't anticipate TJ going anywhere. I find it so hard to believe that TJ would go anywhere. Like it is, if you told me what are the odds, I'd say minus 1,000 odds that TJ would get moved out of Pittsburgh, and I would still feel like that was low ball in the number. I'm just so confident in it.
It feels honestly very similar to the Aaron Rodgers situation in the sense that, I feel like we're operating and we're kind of talking about this on a daily basis as if it's already a done deal, the same way that it kind of just felt like even, you obviously were hearing some different things than I was about about Aaron Rodgers, and we were talking about it on camera and off camera and stuff like that. But even when we were on here, a month and a half ago, it felt like we were already talking with certainty that, Rodgers is going to be the starting quarterback. And it feels the same type of way right now with the Watt contract negotiations. And even though there's some bumps in the road, I just, nothing about it seems to indicate that there is something really wrong going on with these negotiations other than they are just progressing maybe slower than we all would like. I would be shocked if anything actually happens, but also, they got to call the same way Khan's got to call everybody out or call every other GM about Olave or anyone who might become available. The Eagles and Cowboys, they want to improve their edge rush. They want to win a Super Bowl. Why not call about the most talented, edge rusher in the NFL?
You're good, dude. I agree. I look at TJ as untradeable for the Pittsburgh Steelers, but just like you said, teams that are ballsy enough, they're going to make that phone call. Am I worried? No, not at all. Not even a little bit. And shout out to the Steelers social media team who very politely apologized for talking, and very clearly you guys could not hear them because these are the greatest mics in the world. Shout out. If they could hold back a train, they could hold back a social media team every day of the week. Danny, did I hear DK call Calvin Austin a jitterbug? How funny would it be if the nickname stuck? I think it'd be hilarious, actually. I might be able to ask Calvin. Well, you might be able to ask Calvin tomorrow. Jacob might be here tomorrow. We're still waiting on confirmation, but that'd be a good one. That'd be a good one. I like jitterbug. I'm a big fan of jitterbug.
Especially if DK is the one labeling him that way.
That's
that
what I'm
is
saying.
The most hilarious thing ever. That's like it's like a really big guy having a small dog and naming it something cute.
I agree. I agree. American Steel, are they feeding you at minicamp? If so, how's the food? Food's good. It's the normal food that we're getting every day all throughout the season. They feed us here all the time. They are the goats, man. Shout out to Bob. Shout out to Chef Kevin. Shout out to Tim. Shout out to Rico. They're my guys. Very appreciate it. The cafeteria staff here, man. The bomb. And somehow this is crazy to me, and I don't believe it. They make cookies every day. I eat 5 of those cookies every week, 1 a day, every single day. And they somehow all the time ask me, my wife makes cookies for the security staff and for the cafeteria every year for Christmas. And they're always like, we think she should make us cookies more often. And I'm like, guys, I don't know how to tell you this, but your cookies are phenomenal. Okay. And I don't know if this is like eating chocolate in a chocolate factory, but you guys need to start eating your own product because it's so good. You're missing out, I think. But shout out. The food's phenomenal. They're awesome. Training camp food's even better. And I'm excited for it. I'm excited. This might be the first year you get the football 20. And I'm excited. It's yeah. You say that until you're 5, 6. At this point, I'm 7 seasons deep, and that football 20 adds up because you can't get rid of the 20 as fast as you used to the year before. So now you're up. Now you're up 30. Now you're up 45. Next thing you know, you're up a lot more than you thought you were going to be, and shirts are getting a little snug. Okay, cookies are just too natural. Too natural. All right,
Tori's gonna hate it.
It is what it is, man. It is
what it is.
Sneaker home some fresh made sushi, which will be here tomorrow, and some cookies. She'll be all right. She'll be all right. She'll be all right. All right, we'll finish it off with this one. Noah, why are you watching your back like there's Browns fans around you? Fantastic comment. I'm gonna say that so I can't hear anybody walking, but I can catch like the wind, the shadow, and it scares the hell out of me every time. I'm always just like, what's going on right now? What's happening? Mostly because I'll tell you guys, not maybe funny to me. I don't know. Maybe it's the stupidest story ever. First day I was ever on this job. Okay. I showed up here for a Mike Tomlin press conference, and on SI asked me to do a video with them. And they were like, just set up somewhere. I said, all right, sounds good. So I went outside and set up right in front of, not here, there's another parking lot, and it's right in front of the building. And I was like, okay, that's where I'm going to set up. And I was doing it, and I was on the live and with them, and some lady comes out and starts screaming at me like, you can't be here, you can't be doing a video here, get out of here. And I was like, I'm so sorry, this is all live, day one of my job. I've never worked here before. I've never done anything like this ever before in my life. Freaking out. So I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. So I look at the camera, I say, all right guys, I'll be right back. I turn my camera off, I run upstairs, I sit down, I slap my laptop down, like in a room of journalists. Like, I'm just like, all right, we're just going to look like a fool in front of everybody. We're just going to do this. I turn my camera on, I start talking, blah, blah, blah. Maybe 30 seconds later, Mike Prizzuta, WDEV, walks in here and he looks at me. Never met him before. Now we're good buds. Walk in and he goes, the hell are you doing in my seat? I was like, I don't even have an answer to that, man. I'm doing a video. I was like, can I finish the video? Nah, get up. I said, all right, cool, sick. Got up and just looked at the camera and said, all right, guys, I'm leaving. And I just like exited out immediately. So that's why I get nervous, man. It's PTSD a little bit that I just can't, you know what I mean? You never know who's coming behind the corner here and who's ready to just tell you, get the hell out of this parking lot. Get the hell out of this parking lot. You just never know. All right. Shout out. With that said, we're heading out of here. Thank you guys so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. Make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/All Steelers Talk. Check us out anywhere you get your podcasts. And as always, find all of our work at si.com/NFL/Steelers. With that said, we'll be back tomorrow, live day 3 from mandatory minicamp. Enjoy another beautiful day in the Berg. Peace.